So is the profitability of your business more important than the story of your business? This is something that I'm really torn between right now as I'm trying new ways to grow mushrooms. So right now we're playing around with hardwood fuel pellets because I've been having wood chip shortages all year, and we're trying to find an alternative solution so that we don't have to stop production. So we've been playing around with hardwood fuel pellets. I have all these bags right here that I picked up at the local hardware store. I should say actually my investor, he went and picked up from the local hardware store because I bought up all the hardwood fuel pellets from Canadian Tire in Penticton and Oliver this year, and this is not something that they normally keep in stock. So we got all we could get out of Salmon Arm and Vernon as we're trying to develop this strategy of hardwood fuel pellets. So right now what we're doing is we're playing around with hand mixing hardwood fuel pellets on our production line. So we're simply weighing out 1.6 pounds of pellets, adding 20% bran, which is 0.4 pounds, and then 3 pounds of water. We let that hydrate, and then we mix that by hand in the bag until we get a really nice consistency, and we're left with about 60% moisture. Now this is something that I did a little bit of research. I connected a couple growers through a network on Facebook that I connect with a lot of different mushroom growers, and specifically I talked to Andrew Reed from Mossy Creek Mushrooms and Joel from Stellar Mushrooms out of Saskatchewan, who's a really good friend of mine, and they gave me a really good direction on how to do this. I don't have any mechanization on my farm, but I was able to come up with a really good approach and direction to make this work on my farm with what I have on hand, and then I can develop a faster way to do this if I really like the process. So we played around with 20% bran supplementation, and today we played around with 50% soy hull pellet supplementation with 50% hardwood fuel pellets. This is actually referred to as the master's mix, and a lot of commercial growers use this for wood-loving species. And I've always used wood chips for my farm. This is how I've always promoted my business, how I've marketed it, and we've always stuck with wood chips because that is what I can get in this area locally. But what I'm having problems with is there's a lot of labor to process the wood chips, especially as we get into peak summer. So when I get a fresh load of wood chips, it gets dumped on the tarp, and then if it's peak summer, it has a lot of leaf in it. So we have to actually sun dry that, get the leaf blower and blow the leaf out and process it until we're left with a really nice substrate that we can use for production. And then we're going to mix that on our concrete slab here. I usually add about 20% bran, 3% oyster shell. We mix that at night. That takes maybe 45 minutes if it's just one person doing it, maybe half an hour if there's two. And then we let that drip dry overnight with a tarp on it, and in the morning we're left with 60% moisture or water capacity, and we prep that up. Now the problem with wood chips is that there's a lot of branches, a lot of bigger pieces in the pile, and we actually need to sift that out. So we have a mechanical, we don't have a mechanical sifter, and we're just doing it by hand. We're actually just using a shelf that we go back and forth. We sift out the branches, and then we're left with a decent substrate. Needless to say, there's a lot of preparation to get the wood chips so we can process them, and then there's even a lot of work during bagging when we're doing production that day for wood chips. So we can do about 2 guys with hardwood fuel pellets. It takes us about 6 hours. With 4 guys today, it took us about 4.5 hours. But what is something that I hadn't intended is that with our sterilization unit that you guys can see here, we can normally only fit 245 of our 5.5 pound wood chip bags in these units because the wood chips are bigger, there's a lot more air in the bag, and they're just have a lot more volume. But with the hardwood fuel pellets, they're actually able to compress, and we're actually able to fit 49 bags per unit, or 343 bags per run. So it's about an extra 100 bags that we can fit in our sterilization unit every 2 days. So that's about anywhere between 300 and 400 bags extra every week. And this becomes very significant for our business because we'll have an extra 400 bags growing out that week, and then those 400 bags can then go into our greenhouses faster, and we'll start having more profitable months Our fuel savings per bag with propane is going to be the same, so we're going to start saving propane costs per bag. And if we can come up with an efficient way to bag these hardwood fuel pellets, we're probably going to save a significant amount of labor. So what is left to find out is that will the 20% bran supplementation or the 50% soy hull pellet supplementation called the Master's Mix, how will that yield in our greenhouse? How many mushrooms will we get per block? Because right now we're getting about 0.9 to a pound of mushrooms over two flushes over 6 to 8 weeks with our wood chips. And if we can get a higher yield with this and fit more mushrooms in our sterilizer, we're going to be more profitable. So does the story of my business matter, or do I want to focus on profitability? This is really the core question of the crossroads of my business right now, as we're trying to be more profitable, but we're trying to keep to our core values. So do I want to continue using wood chips and accepting that it is a lot of labor? Do I want to maybe focus on more equipment on my farm to make the process more efficient, and maybe find a way to create sawdust instead of using wood chips, or try to mechanize our sifting tables so that we can be a little bit more efficient in that process? Or do I want to start using hardwood fuel pellets? You know, one of the problems I'm having is that it is more plastic waste for my business. You know, these hardwood fuel pellets do come in a bag, but I can be more profitable. So maybe I want to focus hardwood fuel pellets on specific species. A couple species that come to mind is our chestnut mushroom. Chestnuts, I'm only looking to do one flush because it takes way too long in our greenhouses. So maybe I want to do the Master's Mix, the 50% soy hull, 50% hardwood fuel pellets, and grow chestnut mushrooms on that, and just do one flush and maybe get about 1.5 pounds yield. Hypothetically, I'm assuming there's going to be a bigger yield, and that'll be more profitable for us for certain species. And then maybe for our core species that do really well, elm oyster would be one, pearl oyster would be one. Maybe I focus wood chips with that so we can keep our story. Or does none of that really matter? I'm a business, and all that should matter is that we're profitable and that we're growing good products. So I'm not really sure the direction that we should be heading right now, but it is continued research for our business, and it is interesting that these hardwood fuel pellets, we can fit more in our sterilization, and I don't have to actually increase sterilization capacity. We can actually change the substrate and have more mushrooms per month. So I'm just about to harvest with Thierry. He's visiting us from Georgetown out of Ontario, and we're gonna do some harvesting to finish off the night. We always harvest twice a day, and our night harvest can be anywhere between 6 and 9 at night, depending on how busy the day is. So we're probably gonna be doing about 20 pounds of mushrooms, and we have 4 greenhouses that we have to harvest. So you guys can watch along, and we'll talk to you soon.